Ah, here's where the donging is coming from. All right.
Okay, you survived. I'm already treated. Actually got really cold. The beach there. Yeah. And then you had the spice. Yeah, probably. I did feel like I was in a giant teacup. Right.
Like a month ago.
I was like,
Right.
I
Just
tried
need
to go somewhere else. Yeah, I couldn't resist the flavor.
It's like potpourri.
Yeah, it was a really good
I live in London. I have a
I
place
didn't
in
realize
London.
like how small.
So that's home, I guess.
You look like a different person.
So I'll be doing that.
Light? No light.
I think I'll see what-
Don't like the light.
Let's go to my parents. What are you doing that? What is your job? What a job.
Yeah.
Very happy here.
Yeah.
What do you have a job? I'm like, I'm trading options. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Can you guys pull that mic there, clip kind of in between you two?
Oh my god. It's like
There.
So
Don't be self-conscious.
Oh no, not this one.
That one I think is.
That one's direct.
Say a few words there. What'd you have for breakfast?
Yeah, like it's not like
I think I can hear. What'd you guys have for breakfast?
I had some amazing green pancakes.
Green pancakes. Were they kind of old? Were they kind of?
Like E42. They're like green pancakes. I'm like, okay, so.
All right. That's
Yeah, it's getting just smart.
all right. I can definitely hear you guys now.
and then I'm like, wow, these dudes like you don't make a book.
Yeah, no, so that was my main thing when I was putting my job online because I just bought it.
It's good
like
to
a
do
year
it, but
ago
like
and I had
they've
a
never
big mortgage on it. I'm like, I need the job. So keep that going, but it's distracted now.
Oh, yeah, like
So now, a lot of money.
yeah. And like spaciousness. Yeah, it's very cool bathtubs. They even have a big filter.
I actually wanted to. I was going to make some money out of the cash machine. I think I should do the Bitcoin thing. So I have what do people use here? What is the for their like wallet? Because there's a few sites. I guess.
I use blocks for handshake.
You mean for a wallet or for
Just taking some out. I'm like, I should do Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely. Ivor, what's happening? And make sure you hide behind my screen so I can't see you.
Well, I know.
The setup is really upgraded.
It's very high tech.
Next level.
Yeah, totally.
Well, you've seen the number on the board. That's why it's upgraded. We're number 100. You've obviously got plans, Gary, because you're splitting.
We have to plan the party.
You're splitting it 99A and
I know it's procrastination. Do that.
I just thought you just had big plans for 100.
All right.
Is our favorite Asian sensation coming? A Japanese ninja, or is he on island, or what? Gary,
What's that?
Japanese ninja, is he coming?
Japanese ninja?
Are you talking about Willy?
What about the Japanese ninja?
Well, is he on island yet? Is he on
Oh
island?
no, he's still in Kuala Lumpur, I think. Yeah, he's on his way here. He's on a 3-day journey.
So I'm gonna be fine.
Ivor, can you
Yeah, for sure. Is he coming?
wait till people come here? Wait till the room fills up.
Sure. Is he coming, Gary, because you couldn't get a connection, Gary?
Yeah, he's coming because he wants Joe, and we can do Sri Lanka. So.
I thought so.
and an Indonesian bank froze his accounts, and he has to go see about it. But I think it's just because he wants to do the show.
And you know, I had that same experience during COVID when because our account got drained. You know, someone copied our card. Out of all the countries in the world, US, of course.
Yes, we have the smartest scam artists.
You just sure do. I think it was at a petrol station too. Anyway, can't do anything unless you're in person. I've got a turn deposit account and I forgot to tick over compounding monthly into the account. Can't do it unless you're in person. Opening a US holding account. Can't do it unless you're in person. Anyway.
All right, guys.
Gary,
We're going to get this party started. All right. Let's do this. All right. It's Tuesday, November 1st, 2016. Already November. 2016 is almost over, folks. And we're just about to do this for the 99th, 8th time. This is the filter number 99A, Bitcoin's Lunar Landing. Any idea why I named it Bitcoin Lunar Landing? And nobody knows.
Because the price is going up.
Because the price is going out. The price is going to the moon.
It's going to the moon.
Okay.
Yes. We've had a 10% rise in the price of Bitcoin in the last week. Yes.
It's pretty exciting.
It's pretty exciting. It's pretty wild. Sometimes it goes down 10% in a week. So this is the flip side. But this week we get to talk about going to the moon, and you know, it's pretty exciting in the Bitcoin world, but we're out of the woods yet. Still a few things that could, I don't know, go wrong. What could go wrong? Only how many dollars is Bitcoin worth? $10 billion?
10, 11.
Yeah, it's only a 10 or 11 billion dollar bug bounty out there in the world for Bitcoin. But anyway, we've got a great show here tonight. We are going to talk about a few different things besides the price. We're going to touch again on the issue of identity. Our own Andrea wrote a piece on identity, and we're going to talk with him a little bit about that. That's getting a lot of play on the internet. We are also going to talk about China. So a big cryptocurrency conference in China that our man Steven DeMillionaire has been, he's there. He gave a presentation there, and we're going to talk a little bit about China. I think China has something to do with the price movement lately. And we're going to talk a little bit about Zcash. How many people have been following this thing called Zcash? Zcash. It's kind of like Bitcoin, only it's not Bitcoin. We've talked about many other crypto coins in the past, but this one is a little bit different. So let's see what that's all about. Let's kick things off here, guys. I'm going to share my screen so that everybody at home can see what's going on here. Just a moment. Ooh. I'm in a house of mirrors here. Hold on a sec. There we go. That should be the one. All right. Like I said, this is Bitcoin Lunar Landing, the filter number 99A. Next week, maybe we'll do our 100th show, or maybe we'll just call it 99B. Yeah, keep on procrastinating. We are to you live from the fabulous Hubud.org. These guys give us a nice, cool conference room to meet in every week. And they've got this startup weekend Bali coming up. We did this a few startup weekends ago, but there's a new one coming up November 18th through the 20th. If you haven't done this before, it's a lot of fun. At the beginning of the weekend, you show up with an idea or two, so do about 150 other folks. And by the end of the weekend, you have a venture capitalist ready something or other to talk about. Some people make more or less progress in one weekend, but it's a wild and woolly few days, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're local and you know, if you want some Bitcoin ideas or some Ethereum ideas for projects, see me afterward. I can fill your ear with all kinds of pie in the sky dreams about I don't know, decentralized Uber or Airbnb or I don't know. I've got some ideas kicking around in my noggin. So if you're feeling ambitious, go check out Startup Weekend Bali on the 18th of November. All right. We are here in Bali, and when we're not together in person, we have this little online thing going on Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/bitcoins in Bali. Got just over 1,000 members these days. And this is where we congregate when we can't congregate in person. We post our stories here. We do a little bit of a crowdsourcing of the news. And then when we get together in person, we have something to talk about. So if you post something here, there's a good chance that I'll bring it up when we get together in person, and we can kick it around and figure it all out together. That's the Facebook group. Now, you guys may or may not be aware that we have other people that have rolled through Bali and started their own things in other places, and I hope this will happen a lot. Our man Peter Vanderlingen started this Bitcoin Stellenbosch, which is a little town just outside of Cape Town, South Africa, and he runs a little group and Facebook group out there. We've also got Bitcoins in Singapore. Eddie Azar started this up in Singapore, and they've got things going on. And maybe you can put that on your list of things to look at. There's all kinds of interesting things happening all around the world, and we try and keep up with these folks. If you happen to be in Singapore towards the latter part of November, there's this blockchain town hall with Barry Silbert. He is an old-time Bitcoin venture capitalist. Has a lot of, if you follow him on Twitter or you read some of his stuff, he's got a lot of interesting things to say, and he's going to be in our backyard. If you happen to be in Singapore at this time, could be an interesting thing to go to, and learned about that by just popping over to the Bitcoins in Singapore Facebook page. We've also got something going on Twitter. This is hashtag Bitcoins in Bali. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, but you're not here with us, just hit us up on Twitter with the hashtag Bitcoins in Bali, and we can have a conversation there. We also have the bitcoinsinbali.org website, which is where we coordinate our classes. And we've also got this Get Involved tab. And we're building a Bitcoin economy here in Ubud, and there's lots and lots to do. If you're interested in what we're up to, or you want to help out, check out this this Get Involved area of our website. We've also got classes listed on the bitcoinsinbali.org, so check that out. All right, so like I said, we're trying to build a Bitcoin economy, and we were just talking about Willy Woo a few minutes ago. He was kind enough to build, we used to look at static graph, but now Will has created a real-time graph of the Bitcoin economy. So if you were to go spend some Bitcoin at Kismet or Bali Bohemia, or if you were to use the Bitcoin ATM, then it would show up here after the transaction confirms. Christine, hi, welcome. Boy, there's a lot of, it's old home here at Bitcoins in Bali. Welcome. All right, so this is the Bitcoins in Bali real-time economy graph. You can see in the peachy kind of color, that's the ATM that we have out here in the lobby. That's a bulk of the transactions. The top part here is the restaurants and shops around town that we monitor, and the colored areas are the events, right? So you can kind of see what's going on. I like to look at the Tuesdays because that's when we get together. You can see you can find the Tuesdays pretty easily because you got the weekends marked here in blue. So after tonight's episode, we're going to head on over to Kismet. We're going to try and get this thing to grow. This line right here, this is going to grow later on tonight as we buy beer and lasagna and what else do they have that's good there? I like the green curry. Halloumi burger. Yes. All right. Watch the halloumi burger will show up right here on top. Mel's halloumi burger will show up there right around 7:30. Hello. Welcome.
Vegan poutine.
They have vegan poutine.
Sorry, vegetarian.
Which for our non-Canadian folks is what?
French fries with vegetarian cheese.
Is that what it is? Vegetarian cheese?
Yeah.
I thought it was gravy. It's kind of brown, isn't it? Or is that just because it's like vegan? It's some crazy Canadian thing.
Something non-dairy cheese. That's all I know.
All right, so your poutine and Mel's halloumi burger are going to show up right here on this graph. Oh, one more thing. This red line is the 7-day moving average. So we're trying to get this every day that the moving average shows up higher than the bar graph. We are growing the economy. So right now we're not doing so great. We've got the 7-day average is kind of lagging down here. It's at 9 transactions. So that's not too bad though. 9 transactions a day. 9 Bitcoin transactions a day. I think that's all right. Question.
Do you know how much more expensive it is to use the ATM than to go through an exchange than to Bitcoin.co.id?
Well,
3%,
yeah,
Well,
something,
that's
some,
2-3%.
2 or 3%. Yeah. And sometimes the Bitcoins on Bitcoin.co.id are less expensive than the global average, because I do a little comparison. I buy a few every few days from the ATM, and you can, I've got my Airbits wallet that tells me what it thinks I'm buying. Like, and sometimes I'm buying, if I put in 100, sometimes it thinks I'm buying 96,000, and sometimes it thinks I'm buying 104,000. So it varies.
And what's the price that the ATM is pulling from?
From Bitcoin.co.id,
okay.
the latest market price with a small markup to try and pay for the machine, which I don't think they've done yet in 2 years. But it's fun. It's a fun little experiment. All right. So last we talked about identity. How many here were last week when we were talking about identity? That was a good episode. We had a few technical difficulties, but I think by and large it was pretty good. And our man Andrea here wrote, did I say that right?
Yes.
Wrote this awesome piece. Did any of you guys catch this? It was posted in the group. I love. You haven't written part 2 yet, have you?
I'm doing it.
Okay. So we'll start with part 1 though, and it's this concept of the phone-born identity, right? This is the movie starring Jason Bourne. It's like,
it took me 1 week to write and 1 week to find the title.
So what is this concept of the phone-born identity?
Well, the title is a little bit clickbaity, but it's not deceiving in terms of the content. So it's a 5,000 word essay, so it's somewhat long to summarize it, and I tried to keep it as short as I could, while still putting all the pieces together for a zero knowledge audience. And fundamentally, it describes what I think would be transformations to how we manage identity over the next few years. As you can see, I don't have enough money for a decent stock photo. And you can scroll and scroll. It goes down.
It says a 19-minute read, but it took me like an hour because there weren't enough pictures.
And the pictures make it faster, even if
there are a lot of big words too. So.
Anyway, fundamentally, I had a little epiphany after watching the Ubud presentation that we saw about a month ago when the consensus people came here. Those guys put a few pieces of the puzzle together for me to understand how to actually transition identity onto the blockchain. The original epiphany would be the fact that even identity systems that we use today are fundamentally based on a series of provably or probabilistically connected actions that a number of intermediaries hold for us, and by making sure that those actions are linked, we create a string of proofs throughout our lives that are our identity. So our identity starts and we get a birth certificate, which is produced by combining the attestations from parents in a hospital. And then with the birth certificate, you go to school and you get a primary school diploma, etc., etc., etc. Maybe you're not used to thinking about it in those terms, because you only would have to do so if at some point your identity relationship with the government broke. But the identity fundamentally is the capacity to string together provably connected facts and salient events that matter for the purpose of going about the business of life with yourself, with your family, with the government, banks, and who knows what else.
So are we gonna be able to not need governments or bank attestations in the future, or?
I don't think so. I think that will still be required. But
yeah,
that's part 2.
Okay.
At the same time, it becomes possible somewhat soon to move on to using an identity that is self-generated on the phone, or wherever it is that will be self-generated. It doesn't have to be a phone, but
I've got my whole identity on this thing.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the title was so catchy that I had to use it, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with phones.
What about this concept of the boring futures and the exciting futures?
Yes. Well, the first part of the essay is focused on the boring problem. So maybe it's the most boring part of the more boring essay of the 2 that I'm going to write.
So the next one's going to be more exciting.
I hope so. Yes. I think
because I thought this was pretty exciting.
Thanks.
Well, the boring problems, as I said here, are the giving what we already have, or most of us enjoy, to everyone. And in part two, I'm comparing them to the first wave of innovations that you get when you invent computers or the internet. So at first, you simply try to stuff everything that you already had onto the new medium. So invent the personal computer, and then you get the office suit. And the office suit is exactly the stuff that you had before, only transposed onto a computer. Invent the internet, and you get chats, and you get email, and you get the voice calling. So things that you already have, and you put them online. And if you guys have seen Silicon Valley, the TV show, in season 2, there's a character whose name I forget now, that is satirizes this initial phase of a technological innovation. He's famous as the guy that put radio on the internet. So something very straightforward, transposed onto the new medium. And the guy, of course, in the show is a total douchebag that does not understand technology at all, but just had this stroke of genius, and it was there early enough. And the exciting problems, so the stuff that comes later, are the stuff that cannot be thought of yet before it actually happens. And the part 2 is dedicated to that. So when the internet is developed, you can figure out that somebody at some point is going to invent email, possibly very soon. And then you're going to have chats, and then you're going to have business online. So those things are very straightforward because they have to do with speeding up forms of communications that we already understand. But then could you have said that YouTube in its current form would have come up?
YouTube is something that humanity didn't have before all of this technological advancement took place. Yes. So if I could just recapitulate, we get everything that we had before again, and then we start to get new things that never existed before.
Correct.
Okay, and that's going to happen with something as boring as identity.
Yes, definitely.
Because identity is pretty boring. I think it's hard to appreciate the significance of identity. You know, I think of like getting into a bar when I was 21, you know, or showing my passport when I travel. But it's going to get more interesting than that, huh?
Yes. Well, anyway, the essay is made of 10 shorter essays that be maybe 400 or 500 words each, and they are somewhat concatenated, and they contain a number of points. And if you understand and agree with all the points, at the end you can see in a sense, the bigger picture of how identity systems can be replaced. I used to think that identity was also extremely boring, unless maybe you work in credit card fraud management and you get paid shitloads of money to work on the field. But I know I'm talking about you, but there's actually something somewhat fascinating when you get into it, and especially when you see what can happen if we manage to get a hold of identity and how we manage it ourselves.
So, and that's in the next essay when we get into the juicy, Buck Rogers, Star Wars stuff. Okay, all right. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Maybe we'll do like a whole another segment on the second part of your essay.
I'm still here by the time it's done.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Thanks.
All right. Excellent. What else have we got here tonight, guys? All right, let's talk a little bit about the price of Bitcoin. This is bitcoin.co.id, the largest Bitcoin exchange in Indonesia. These are the guys behind the Bitcoin ATM in the lobby here, and they're responsible for our spot price in Indonesia. Over 9, can you guys read that? Is that over 9 million? $9 million rupiah. Everybody's a millionaire when they get to Indonesia, so come visit us here. It's very exciting when you get your first mil in your wallet. Okay, so 1 Bitcoin, we're going to need a new decimal place pretty soon. Yeah. When are we going to hit the 10 million rupiah mark? You think they're going to have to redo their website here because they're going to move all this over, one extra? All right, so most people though are used to thinking about Bitcoin in the more popular currencies in the world, and you can see that we've had our little filter boost for the I think it was 7:09 earlier today, but the word got out that we were gonna start a little bit late, but still have the meeting tonight, and so it jumped up to 7:23.96. I think that's pretty exciting. I don't know if you guys catch it down here. These are the euro price, 6.59, China 4,900 renminbi, and British pounds. since there's so much going on in China, I'd be interested in talking with Will if he thinks there's some sort of psychological barrier around 5,000 renminbi. And if we pass that psychological point in China, will that trigger some sort of effect? Because we see that with the dollar when we reach milestones, when you reach the, when that leftmost digit ticks over to something new, you get a little bit of a psychological effect. Sometimes it's a barrier and people don't want to spend over 5,000 renminbi, and sometimes when it surpasses those barriers, then it, you get a little bit of a FOMO / stampede mentality of people trying to get in.
Yeah, that's what the traders are talking about right now on the Bitcoin markets.
They're talking about that 5,000 renminbi barrier. Well, we're gonna
pop up over 5,000 when it was what, 800 and something.
We've been there already.
I think, but it didn't hold.
Oh, okay.
780, and then it dropped again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to the
All
Dow.
right. Well, keep your eye on that renminbi price. Here's the Bitcoin time machine. As I said, over the past week, we've gained about 10%. We started around 640, and where are we now? 720. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
What happened?
Short squeeze, apparently.
Wait, you want to explain that for people?
Well, the Bitcoin price prophet, Vinny Lingham, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, and so I hope he's not listening to this podcast.
He's from South Africa.
Yes. So probably not the right time zone, right? Anyway, yeah, he argues that in a mature environment, Bitcoin price increases will start happening through the mechanism of so-called short squeezes more than simply increasing buying pressure, meaning that there are a number of open, long, and short positions which counterbalance each other in general and somewhat push the price up and down, independently of normal non-leveraged trading. And as long as there is a slightly more buying pressure on either side of the buying side, as long as there's more pressure on the buying side than on the selling side, occasionally the price will tend to increase slightly, and a number of short position at some point will be closed at the same time with a sufficiently large volume, such that whenever you close a position, you're automatically forced by the exchange to go on the open market, buy the Bitcoin that you owe the other counterpart. The very act of going into the market and doing so will tend to make the price jump up, and as the price jumps up, automatically also if several other shorting positions that will be closed in that narrow gap will also be closed, and that will tend to make the price jump up.
Are you guys getting all this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was totally confused by that. But that's okay. Well, we've got another explanation here. Where is this? Where'd it go? Bitcoin as Chinese capital outflow proxy. That sounds equally baffling, does it not? But the Chinese renminbi is a currency that has capital controls, right? If you're rich in China, I think you can only leave the country with about $50,000. And given that all of the Bitcoin mining is taking place in China, people could be looking to Bitcoin as a way to, you can put Bitcoin on a thumb drive, put it in your pocket and go to Hong Kong or any place else and move your money much more easily. So there's a graph here that's basically graphing the, what do we got here? The Bitcoin price versus the capital outflows of renminbi. There's a little bit of a correlation there, and that could also be pushing the price around. But your guess is as good as mine. Okay, new topic. Talk about volatilities. Also, can seemingly be a boring thing, but there's our man Willy Woo, and he has written a piece about Bitcoin volatility on his Woo Bull website. And let's see if we can make the sense of this for you guys, because I think this is a lot more exciting than maybe we think it is. He's predicting that Bitcoin volatility will match major fiat currencies by 2019. Now that's a lot earlier than I think even Vinay. I think even there's Vinay, or actually that's yeah, Vinny Lingam. That's the guy that Andrea just mentioned. And I think he was predicting that Bitcoin volatility won't rival fiat currencies until like 7 or 10 years from now. And our man Will has a different take on it. And let me just show you. There's the Bitcoin volatility going back to 2011. Let's take a look at like JPY USD volatility by comparison. You can see the volatility. That yellow line is the USD Japanese yen volatility. You can see it's much lower than Bitcoin volatility, but the Bitcoin volatility is going down. Check out this graph from Will, where he tries to make some predictions about Bitcoin price volatility. He graphs the line going down. Here's volatility of the New Zealand the New Zealand dollar versus the US dollar is over 5%, and we could reach that point by July 2019. Now, why is that important? Basically, this is what you need in order to use Bitcoin as a currency for commerce. Essentially, if you're a business owner and you accept Bitcoin payments, if you've got volatility over 5%, then you can't really hold on to the Bitcoin because you become a Bitcoin speculator, right? Bitcoin, you can't count on Bitcoin holding its value. And so you're basically motivated to sell your Bitcoin as soon as you get it. And therefore, it really can't serve its purpose as money until we get there. So there's a disincentive for merchants to accept Bitcoin as payment because the volatility is too great. And Willy Woo in this article says that all of the early Bitcoin companies that got a big valuation and a lot of venture capital funding were too early. They're still in here in the 2013, 2014, where the volatility is very high. And so they can't, unless they're a Bitcoin speculator or they're philosophically behind Bitcoin, it doesn't really make business sense until we get here. And if you've ever seen, or if you're familiar at all with the crossing the chasm or the adoption curves that a lot of technologies follow, and if they want to be adopted by the early majority or the majority, basically people who really don't care about Bitcoin but get involved because everybody else is getting involved, they won't do so until volatility reaches at least here, where we've got something similar to the New Zealand dollar. But again, this is much earlier than other pundits are saying, and that means that Bitcoin could gain wide usage much more soon than we thought. Now, what's interesting about that for you guys? Well, this guy, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Who's the guy that you mentioned? This guy? Vinny says that for the volatility low, Bitcoin will have to be worth something like $40 billion. So 4 times what it's worth now. So $2,000 a coin, $3,000 a coin. So if we were at $2,000 or $3,000 a coin by 2019, that's very interesting. And that's the trajectory we're on. I mean, we're happy because Bitcoin goes up 10% in a week, but how about 400% return by 2019? That's also quite good. So let's see. Mark your calendars. Write it down there. We'll see if see if Willie was right. Hopefully, we'll still be doing this in 2019.
There is a problem that there's a negative loop between stability and price in Bitcoin, in the sense that if it achieves significant stability, the price by necessity will go up, and if the price goes up,
then it's not stable. It's not stable again.
It's not stable anymore. So there's
but it's volatile on the side of the equation for us speculators, right? All right. So Will is going to be here this week. We actually tried to get him on the line to talk about this stuff, and he was in Sri Lanka, and we basically couldn't get the call to go through. So he did just come to Bali in person. The interview was that important, that he will be, if he's not in Bali already, I think he's going to be in Bali tomorrow, and we're going to have that conversation where we'll talk in more detail about this and some other articles that he's written that is starting to make a big splash in the Bitcoin world. So we're really lucky to have him local later on this week.
I think it'd be quite success, especially because unlike a lot of other people that simply write bloviating essays like mine, he actually puts a lot of work into doing the actual math. It's very few people do, and that is something that I see as being appreciated by a lot of people. Like,
yes,
it takes him a lot of time to come up with this kind of stuff, and that's a rare skill and a rare use of time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be doing quite well.
Oh, but this is his curiosity.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he's yes, he likes to talk at length about this. I think he's got intrinsic motivation. Okay, so now that talking about pie in the sky, let's bring you guys back down to earth. We're not on the moon yet. We've still got our teething problems. Bitcoin is not an adult yet. We just had our 8th birthday. Did you guys know October 31st was when the Satoshi white paper was published? Yesterday.
Wow.
Halloween.
Is it the white paper or the first block?
No, the first block was in January of 2009.
So which counts as a birthday?
I celebrate both of them by drinking heavily. Pop the champagne. Oh, it's January. Pop it again. I'm always looking for, halving day. I'm always looking for the Bitcoin holidays. 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Let's party. Okay.
Maybe the white paper is the conception, and then the 3 months gestation, and then January is the
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Pretty amazing turnaround, actually. Okay, but we're not out yet. Let's take a look at this chart here. You love the charts, don't you? Are you guys intimidated by the charts? Do you like the charts? It's a chart-filled evening tonight. This is the median confirmation time, right? And can you see any outliers on this chart here? Let's see. What's this guy? Oh, 20 minutes average block time on that date, on the 26th of October. So instead of 10 minutes on that day, it was an average of 20 minutes. So double the expected block time, and that's the average. So presumably people had, maybe there were 40-minute block times, 15-minute block times. Maybe they were under 20, but that's the average. And as you can see, that is not normal, right? This is what happens when, Bitcoin is at its max, right? It is at its max throughput. And this is what we've been fighting about, what we've been talking about for the last year: the Bitcoin block size debate, segregated witness, Lightning Network. All these things are these technical solutions to the Bitcoin throughput problem. We've got a limit of around 4 or 5 Bitcoin transactions per second, and we are maxed out. We are a victim of our own success. And we've got to solve this problem, right? We can't have 20-minute block times. It's going to force people to leave Bitcoin. Anybody have a problem with their Bitcoin transactions on this day, on the 26th? Nobody? I didn't either, but presumably some people were pissed off.
How do we know, though, that it actually maxed out? Can it go higher? It can go higher, right? Can it take longer?
It can. You mean you'll get an acknowledgement that the payment was seen on the blockchain, but instead of 10 minutes getting the first confirmation, you might get.
I mean on that graph, because you're saying that we're maxed out.
Yes.
But are we really maxed out, or can it actually even take longer than 20 minutes?
Well, we're maxed out in terms of the size of the blocks. So each block right now is 1 megabyte. So if you've got, I don't know what the typical number that they get into a block, but if you've got more than will fit into 1 megabyte, then it's got to go into the next block. And then if the next one is full, then you've got to wait again.
Okay.
And you can foresee a situation where some transactions never make it into the block, and that's when Bitcoin is broken, right? Now don't fret because Bitcoin is not dead yet, even though we had that bad day. Bitcoin has been proclaimed dead 112 times. So Bitcoin's demise is slightly exaggerated, but we do have to watch. Here's the transactions per day And you can see we're kind of flatlined right here at around 225,000 Bitcoin transactions a day. We were growing, and now we hit our block size is maxed out, and we're kind of flatlined here. This is like a visualization of the. Oh shoot! I refreshed that too soon. I was going to show you like the avalanche of. This is a real-time look at the Bitcoin blockchain, and those balls are transactions that are happening on the network. And so this will give you a feel as to how busy the Bitcoin network is, and how much money is transacting. The bigger the ball, the larger the transaction. And
are there ones that are dropping off given?
No, it's just it's not that sophisticated. They've got like a physics engine that's kind of determining what happens with the balls, but it's interesting. You can see the block. This is the block that just arrived. I don't know, what does that say? 400 and something thousand. And then these are all the transactions that will hopefully make it into this block, right? All of these transactions are happening right now, and the idea is that all of these transactions are going to make it into this block. And if they don't, then they've got to try and make it into the next block. And sometimes when you're watching this, the whole screen is just filled up with balls. Like you can't even see the table. You can't see the background. It's just totally just like an avalanche. Like somebody dumped out a bag of balls, and you can't even see what's happening. And I don't know. It's fascinating. I can sit here and watch this.
What does being orphaned mean?
Being an orphaned block is a block that ends up mounting. So you've got all the Bitcoin miners, and they're trying to solve that Bitcoin problem. And if they do solve the problem, then they get the block reward. So every 10 minutes right now, if you find the block, you get 12.5 Bitcoins. But if two miners find it around the same time, then only one can actually claim that block. But for a time, there may be different parts of the blockchain that are building on different blocks. But then eventually the blockchain corrects itself and chooses one of those blocks. But sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 4 transaction periods for that to happen. But the poor miner who has the orphaned block thinks that they won those Bitcoins, but actually they didn't. So it's kind of a bummer when that happens. All right, what else we got here? Here's another visualization. This is kind of a visualization of the blockchain, and these are the blocks. You can see we had one time it took 19 minutes to create the block, then the next one was only 25 seconds, then 1 minute later, then 3 minutes later, then 8 minutes later. Presumably, or the goal that the average ends up being 10 minutes. But sometimes there's so much hashing power involved in the network that it does it more quickly. Now, this blue line is what they call the mempool, and these are the Bitcoin transactions that are trying to make it into the next block. So you can see over here we had too many pending transactions to make it into the next block. But because the next few blocks were found very quickly, we were able to make that back transactions go down, right? So that Bitcoin continues to work, right? But if you can picture in your mind that there's so many people trying to put transactions into the next block, that this just keeps growing and growing and growing, that's when Bitcoin has a problem. And here you can see another representation of that, where we're doing 4, 5, 6 Bitcoin transactions a second, and then they kind of catch up the lull period, and then we have another kind of crest of the wave, and then we have a catch up period. So right now we're at these like little lulls where the blockchain can catch up, but we're who knows if Bitcoin becomes very popular, and this thing like pegs out at 5 or 6 transactions per second, then Bitcoin could become unusable. So how are we going to solve the problem? Are you guys aware that Bitcoin 13.1 was recently released? and it's got this thing called segregated witness. Segregated witness. It's just more vocab for tonight. Sorry to bombard you with all the tech talk, all the nerdiness. But segregated witness is instead of making the Bitcoin coin block more than 1 megabyte, what it does is it takes the signing of the transaction outside of the block. So it's like a de facto doubling of the block size without doubling the block size. So in layman's terms, basically we can double the throughput. We can do twice as many Bitcoin transactions once this works, this thing called segregated witness. Here's the explanation. The technological innovation separates signature data from Bitcoin transactions. So it pulls that out. So you've got more room. The transactions themselves are smaller. So you can do more transactions per second. And it's the equivalent of having a 2 megabyte block size. So let's see, like something like 13, 14, 15 Bitcoin transactions per second. But we're not there yet. Take a look. Here's the user agents. There's 13.1. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's about 12% of the network. 647 nodes out there are running the latest version, which has implemented this segregated witness. And even though it's implemented, it won't actually be adopted until, I forget, do you remember what the threshold is? December, but it has to be adopted by a certain number of miners.
I think 95%
90% of the miners need to adopt this this segregated witness. Now, this is a lot of technology, a lot of tech talk, and this is a proposed solution they've been working on for over a year. It does have its detractors. Here's a link on the detriments of segregated witness for Bitcoin. What is it? It's a nifty method to move signature data from typical transactions into add-on blocks. That's the segregated part of the witness, right? And do I have another thing here? Okay. The added complexity could potentially cause new problems and as the protocol keeps evolving. Now, if you'll remember, Ethereum had its problem and the DAO had its problem by adding complexity, right? Whenever you add complexity, you have unintended consequences. And when all of that stuff was going on with the DAO and Ethereum, there was a lot of second guessing going on about the wisdom of putting all that complexity into the coin, right? And people were looking back at Bitcoin and saying, oh, Bitcoin's so simple. A lot less can go wrong with Bitcoin because it's only trying to do one thing. However, this segregated witness allows for this improved throughput. It also allows for some other things, more programmability. I forget where they mention that, but with it becomes more complexity. So before we get to Bitcoin's $3,000 a coin and everybody has quadrupled their money, we've got to run this gauntlet. We've got to solve this throughput problem, and the current method that the core developers have decided work is to add this this new thing, this segregated witness, and we will have to keep our eye on this. You'll have to come every Tuesday night just to make sure that you don't miss any of the latest news. And we'll keep our finger on the pulse for this segregated witness technology and see how it's unfolding. All right, let's move on here to some of the stories that were posted in the group. This one was posted by Stephen de Molinaire because he was actually a speaker at the conference. Where is there? Look at that handsome devil. Does that look familiar? He was one of the speakers, and obviously China is where stuff is happening, right? If you look at a visualization of what's going on in China, check this out. Look at all the Bitcoin that's just flowing into China on this visualization here. I turned this on before we sat down, and it's been counting the Bitcoins while we've been sitting here, and 57,730 Bitcoins were converted from Chinese fiat into Bitcoin over the last couple hours. And what's interesting, in that same time, you can see that only 1,446 Bitcoins went to the US, and here's 56,000 that went to China. A few went to South Africa. Well, it's getting it from the APIs of the Chinese exchanges. So it's not like we can verify this on the Bitcoin blockchain, unfortunately. These are APIs provided by the exchanges in China, but I don't think you could fake it to this degree for too long without people detecting it. And there's no doubt about it. All of the mining, or a majority of the mining capacity is in China, and a majority of the money flowing into Bitcoin is happening in China.
The disproportion seems just too extreme to be realistic. Like, is it just the people performing trade in exchange, well, into from Chinese into USD?
Yes, that's the representation here, and the United States is sleeping right now, and China is wide awake. But what was your question?
What about the visualization of the opposite movement? So if somebody
cashes out
BTC for CNY. If you have
that doesn't sound as fun to watch. That's not as fun to watch. Yeah. No, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could get that via the APIs as well. That'd be interesting to see stuff flowing the other direction.
Is this like private citizens, or is it going to the government, or
we don't really know. These are accounts that either people or entities have on the Chinese Bitcoin exchanges, and this is what's being reported by those exchanges. So although Bitcoin has all this transparency, this is not necessarily transparent. This could be, we had a situation back in 2013 where Mt. Gox was over-reporting the movements of the Bitcoin price at that time in order to drive the price north. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Bitcoin exchanges are putting their own bots in place that trade against real traders to drive the price up and increase the volume and the perceived liquidity, because they don't really have to prove that they have those Bitcoins until people actually withdraw and convert back to fiat. Or if they withdraw their Bitcoins, they have to produce the real Bitcoins. But if they're just looking at their balance on the Chinese exchange, and the Chinese exchanges are doing fractional reserve representations of the Bitcoin, then they could do a lot of funny business. So,
but there is a real use case in China where business owners who are trying to take their profits out of China, out of the yuan, they're laundering it through Bitcoin, because it's a closed economy, as you said, that they don't let you export any of that yuan, and with the government devaluing it, there's a big use case with everyone.
Yes. Well, those are two things, right? You've got the devaluation of the yuan, which maybe people think that Bitcoin is a safer place to store their wealth than the Chinese yuan, or maybe want to buy a villa in Bali, and the villa costs more than $50,000 US, so they buy a bunch of Bitcoin, put it on a thumb drive, and get on the next tour bus to Ubud, right?
Go to the Bitcoin ATM.
Yes, that's right. Who knows? But these are the features of Bitcoin, and careful with use of the word money laundering, because it's not necessarily money laundering. You're not really basically changing the story behind how you earn that money. You're simply using it to defeat capital controls, which is not necessarily money laundering per se. So, all right. Zcash. Next topic, Zcash. Do you guys know about cash? All right, let's have, you guys are got to be tired of listening to me. Let's see what Amanda has to say about Zcash here.
Zcash is set on October 28th
which is either forthcoming or has already happened, depending on when you watch this video. Zcash is based on Bitcoin, and its primary differentiator from Bitcoin is that users have the option to encrypt the details of their transactions. This means that the sender address, the recipient address, and the amount sent can be obscured from public view on the blockchain. Now, some have been...
All right. So basically it's Bitcoin, but you can encrypt the inputs and outputs with something called a zero knowledge proof, which means that you can be totally anonymous if you want to be. Essentially, you can encrypt the inputs and the outputs and the signatures so that nobody knows who the Bitcoins are going to or from or where they came from. It's a very clever technology. They've been talking about it in academic circles for a long time now. Anonymity means fungibility, and it's a crucial aspect of money working as money. Fungibility is the idea that any token of value that you get is exactly duplicate to any other token of value with the same name. So when you have a 5 quarters in your pocket, it doesn't matter which quarter you pull out to pay somebody, it's still a quarter is a quarter is a quarter. With Bitcoin, one Bitcoin and another Bitcoin and another Bitcoin is not really the same thing. Every Bitcoin has a history. So there were some Bitcoins that were used to buy drugs on the Silk Road. There were some Bitcoins that were won through ransomware. There were other Bitcoins that were used for some nefarious purpose. And we have the public blockchain. You can go back and you can see, hey, one of these Bitcoins that I have, it gets traced all the way back to Satoshi. Or one of these Bitcoins used to be on the Silk Road. Or one of them used to belong to Ross Ulbricht. Every Bitcoin has a history. And therefore, what can you do if a Bitcoin has a history? Yes, blacklist. Oh, the dreaded blacklist. And yeah. If you have blacklists, if Russia says you use any Bitcoin that used to be in the United States, and the United States says you can't use any Bitcoin that used to be in Russia, the Bitcoin ceases to, well, it loses a lot of its utility as money. So a lot of people think that the anonymity or fungibility is for people to launder money or get away with things or, buy drugs anonymously. But actually, it is a core principle of digital cash utility that it has to be immune from blacklists. Otherwise, when you get it, you have to check. Like, let's say that Mel, I want to give you some Bitcoin for a sandwich. When you pay me, I have to somehow check every blacklist that everybody on planet Earth has published to make sure that the Bitcoin you're paying me with is not tainted. And if I have to do that, then I'll probably use something else, like maybe Zcash. Now, Zcash is brand new. They did not do an initial coin offering, or what they're calling an ICO. You guys are familiar with this term, the ICO? They did not do an ICO. They simply, I think, sent it live and asked people to mine the coins for themselves. Is that how it came into existence?
Yes, but there is included a 10% fee for the developers for the first 2 years. So 10% of all the coins might go directly to a predetermined address.
Okay.
That is controlled by the developing team.
Okay, I'm okay with that. What do you think about that?
It's a bit scummy, honestly.
Really? Why? Don't they deserve to be paid?
Well, if on the market, people decide to go for it, sure, go ahead. But I don't know. It sounds like a cash grab fundamentally.
A pre-mining kind of thing?
Yes.
Like a different kind of pre-mining?
Yes.
Well, other coins have done this. Dash, which is actually the coin that this.
That's also a very scummy coin.
Well,
the Ethereum Foundation has done it, but then again, it's a non-profit organization, so there's something somewhat different in there, and also no, actually, it's somewhat similar, but at least the money goes to not directly to the pockets of the developers privately, but it goes to purely to hire people to keep up developing currency itself.
Are you talking about Ethereum now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know, one of the hardest things that any new coin has is the initial distribution, right? And arguably, these tokens of value, get their value through some sort of equitable initial disbursement. And there is an ongoing need to support these new coins, to promote these new coins, to continue development. And so I don't know if 10% is the right number, but it's interesting to think that if you build something really cool and it gets adopted, you don't necessarily need the money up front. You've got an incentive to build something really amazing, and then it will come back to you somehow. But honestly, I don't know I don't know too much about the incentive structures or how they're, but in principle, I think it's kind of a cool idea to think that you could build something cool and it could kind of pay you back, like a Zcash, kind of this distributed autonomous scholarship account that goes back to help it succeed later on. But anyway, read some stories about Zcash. It's really fascinating. But we're just about out of time, so I'll leave you with this upcoming conversation that I'm going to have with Willy Woo, because one of the other topics that Will published on was the concept that he took a basket of other cryptocurrencies, right? Cryptocurrencies that claim to be better at Bitcoin for payments, other currencies that had a Turing-complete language attached to them, other coins that got fungibility right or scalability better or governance right. And the red line is the Bitcoin price, and the blue line here is a basket of other cryptocurrencies, basically a cryptocurrency index fund. And you can see that although sometimes they overtake Bitcoin, in the end, it's really hard to beat Bitcoin itself. So, and his argument is that Bitcoin has the network effects. It's got the largest market cap, the most liquidity. It's got a huge jump on all of its competitors. And as soon as a new competitor comes along, Bitcoin can solve that problem. This is another thing that Willie posted to the group, how Tumblebit builds on CoinSwap to improve Bitcoin privacy and fungibility. So if Bitcoin solves its anonymity problem, if it solves its fungibility problem, stuff like Zcash goes away because it can't compete on the network effects and the liquidity. And the network effects and the liquidity are the very difficult things to replace about Bitcoin as it exists now. But I'm going to talk with him about that. I hope you guys will tune in to the and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because I don't know exactly when I'm going to meet with him, but it's going to be later on this week, Thursday or Friday. We'll do that live, and we'll kick around some of the ideas that he's been getting so much global attention about, both the Bitcoin index that got a lot of interest, and also the comparing Bitcoin to Zcash is another thing that I think he'll be able to speak very intelligently on. So check out our YouTube channel. All of these night sessions go right up on the YouTube channel, and if things happen in between, you don't want to miss it. So hopefully you'll choose to subscribe to our YouTube channel here. That's all we've got time for, guys. Thanks for coming out tonight. Again, we're going to go over to Kismet for this, so we will see you over there. And if you're not able to join us for that, we will be back here, same channel next week. Thanks for coming tonight, guys. Woo! Yeah. All right.
Nicely done.
Yeah, nice.